now coming on to the interview for the live programme. You've campaigned on the issue of universal credit for some time. I'm going to talk to you obviously about carers in a moment. But what are your thoughts at present on universal credit?
Well, I think the government thinks it's a nice, easy, packaged up set of benefits. But under that headline, what we see is a lot of groups who are losing out very badly. What the government has never done is a cumulative impact assessment of the changes. And what we see is particularly women, particularly disabled, losing in multiple different ways. So while it might look very simple from the top, it's causing an awful lot of hardship underneath.
Now, just coming to the subject that we're talking about for the programme, the Carers Action Plan for England, there's a lot of promises in it. Some say not enough action. What's the picture like in Scotland for carers?
Well, obviously we've had the Carers Scotland Act passed, which is trying to improve things. Clearly we've about 800,000 family carers in Scotland and about 45 young carers who obviously are still developing themselves and may be responsible for a parent or a grandparent. So this is trying to look at putting real help and support. And there's £135 million of funding behind some of these efforts. Now, the most important headline one would be the change in carers allowance, which will come up to at least match job seekers allowance. That's little enough as it is, but the idea that carers would be paid less than someone who's fit and healthy looking for a job has always been frankly insulting.
A lot of carers in our audience will say, yes, it is a job in itself. And I know the Labour Party are starting to think about linking or putting carers allowance alongside job seekers allowance. It sounds like you might be a bit ahead of the game in Scotland.
Well, it should be delivered in Scotland this year, so we are considerably ahead. We are trying to look at the broader package as well. You know, there will be carers for whom money is not the issue. It's actually things like respite in trying to hang on to themselves, because if their lives are totally taken up in caring for their loved ones, it can be difficult to do very simple actions, but also to have some time to be themselves and be outside. So there will be support for some of the third sector projects around short breaks and also respite within the week. So that this is being tackled in Scotland from many different aspects, and particularly this recognition of young carers and the position they're in and how that caring duty can actually affect their growing up and their development.
So the Scottish Government is effectively recognising that being a carer is a job, in fact, probably a 24/7 job in some cases. And so does this go towards this feeling that carers have in our audience these days, that it's all very well they're being told, yes, you're doing a great job, and people always want to be complimented, but that's not accompanied by money in England to actually do things. How does Scotland differ on the funding point?
Well, I think, as I said, obviously putting money behind the projects, raising carers allowance, of course people, particularly in politics, will say how much they appreciate carers. Carers save the government, whether Scottish or UK, billions of pounds in the work they do, and it can be very hard physical and emotional work. But it's also important to help fund the projects that might ease some of that pressure. So I think to come out with fine words and no actual support is insulting to carers.
And in terms of in Scotland, local versus national government, is this the national government spearheading this project? Whereas in England, it seems to be the government is pushing stuff onto local authorities.
Well, this will be both. The Carers Act obviously was passed by the national government in Scotland. The funding that they're putting in is coming from central government. There will be a grant to young carers of £300 a year, and also particular rights that they will get to access services, to again allow them to have the kind of fun that normal teenagers would have. But one of the demands of the Carers Act will be that locally there is a personalised plan for every family carer, and that will look at what support they need from medical services, from social work services, from respite services. So this is actually local government within our integration boards in Scotland, where we're trying to integrate health and social care together. will be looking at supporting the carers, because obviously the carers then support the patients. But it does require both layers of government to work together, not just toss it into the other one's pitch and say it's your problem.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Was there anything else?